If we can expose, you know, even at the farm, we keep all of our ewe lambs separate until they're bred. And then once they're bred, then they go into general population, because we figure by that time they're far enough along in terms of their mature weight, and mid-breeding season we're already going to make sure that we're keeping up with everybody nutritionally. And so, you know, I think you can mix them and you get a little exposure. But so far, you know, the last couple of years where I've had, you know, Kalen, our shepherd, to really watch, and Kalen's a heck of a good sheep kid, and he understands a lot of those things. That we'll have 3 or 4 abortions, and then they'll. Last year he got real scared. He said, "Oh," he said, "I think we're going to have a storm," and then everything leveled out, and we had a good landing year. And so it's one of those things you're aware of in your own flocks, and it's something too that, you know, all you guys kind of work together on several different things. And if you're having a problem, and chances are, you know, your neighbor may be having a similar problem. And I think that's pretty much all I had in terms of abortions. Any other thoughts, Ron? What?
Well, it just seems like that commingling the sheep, whether they're open or not. I mean, you know, like we bought ewe lambs from James a lot of years, and neighbors will get along pretty good. But if you brought a set of trader ewes in from somewhere mixing with yours, you're just almost destined to have either your ewes or theirs. So,
well,
so if everything's kind of, you know, maintained, not, you know, where you're not mixing too much outside.
Well, when you're mixing them is where I think my classic screw up was, because I never
too late.
I never kept ewe lambs raised them completely separate until 2 weeks before lambing. You know, I probably should have maybe put them together as soon as they were brand new.
Yeah, that breeding time I think is a good time.
Well, and something that I've really seen in this goat deal, because, you know, gosh, I mean, so many people are buying a handful here and a handful there, and they're trucking them all over the country, and we're just seeing stuff spread everywhere. Yeah. And, you know, if you do just a little bit of research and a little bit of, you know, and that's why, you know, I hate when people, I've had a handful of folks that'll say, "Hey, I want to buy, you know, 100 ewes or 200 head of goats," or something like that. You know, who do I call? First person I call is my dad, you know, because he'll know 90% of those guys down there that are getting rid of a big bunch. And I can get in there and get one set out of this guy's place, and we know the history on those animals. And so, and that's just like, you know, we brought in a set of ewes out of South Dakota for a research trial. We got every one of those ewes from the same place, so we know, you know, it's just a little safer. If you've got a good idea or a relationship with somebody that you know is going to supply you clean stock. Otherwise, you know, sometimes, Ron, it's hard to raise those females yourself, but sometimes you're almost better off closing your flock and raising them your own.
I think we are. I think we probably see, you know, less. You got a little bit more control, but you may see less trouble.
Yeah.
But realistically, we can't get those sheep. We can't buy the kind of sheep we need half a dozen places. We either got to get one guy to raise them, or we raise them ourselves.
Well, and you know, we talked about this a little bit. If you look at the U.S. sheep industry, we are going so many different directions, and we're already such a small industry as it is. And we talk about we've done as much harm for our sheep as we have good. And just recently, I judged the National Dorper Show down in Fort Worth, and that is the one breed that the Breed Association is trying so hard to make sure that we keep these sheep productive. You know, we keep them why did we go over there and get those sheep and bring them to the United States? It was for X reason. And so they're trying to keep them for that X reason. And then we've got people that are saying, well, we need to grow them. We need to get them bigger. We need to get them taller. And I had a bunch of those sheep in the show ring, and all those sheep went to the bottom, and I made those folks really mad. And they were trying to tell us, and they said, well, we live in Ohio or Illinois or Indiana or wherever that may be, and we can grow more grass, and so we can raise more animals. I mean, we can feed that animal more and raise more from it. And I said, well, that kind of goes back to this whole big cow thing that I think can we get more from a 1,600 pound cow, or can we get more from more 1,200 pound cows? You know, so it's this concept that I don't know why it is, but we have to breed the production out of sheep, and I think I blew Craig's mind when I went up to Clay Center, because I don't think he thought a boy coming from the wool country was going to embrace the hair sheep quite so much.
I was shocked.
Now, I couldn't make the statement that you made earlier about, I think we just need to really solely concentrate on getting rid of this wool and focus on this hair, because if I said that, I'd have a few folks that
I
hunt
think
me
we're
down.
for both.
But
Can't mix them.
yeah. And that's, we were talking about that. I was talking with Farron Pfeiffer, who works at the Texas A&M Wool Lab in San Angelo, and one of the things that they got coming out of ASI is that these wool buyers are having fits, and it's not, it's more, if you're going to raise hair sheep, raise hair sheep. If you're going to raise wool sheep, raise wool sheep. Because it's not the wool sheep and it's not the hair sheep that are causing the problems. It's when we're crossing them and we're making these F1s and F2s out of that cross, and we're still sending that wool to the warehouse. That's where the big issue is.
What are the Dorper breeders doing to try to maintain that production?
In terms of just the one thing that they're not looking at numbers enough yet, but they're asking the questions. But one of the things that the South African breeding standard is that the body remains 60% of the depth of the animal. The 60%, if you look at the height of the animal, 60% should be body and 40% should be leg. And they really talk about barrel and with the chest floor. And we're not trying to break the chest out of them and make them pretty fronted and, break the rib capacity out of them. They still want that view that's going to go out and graze and not require feed. And
that's some good vision if they realize they don't need to make a lot of changes.
Right. And that's that. If you'll listen to them, and the good thing is they actually sent a formal letter to, in order to judge their sheep for their breed association, you have to be a certified judge. And they sent a formal letter out to the certified judges and said, we've seen some judges are starting to pick these club lamb appearing Dorpers, and that's going away from where our breed is, and either essentially it's kind of a clean up your act, or we're going to take you off the judges list. And so I applauded, and I sent the executive secretary a letter, and I said, I started to make a copy of this letter and send it to every breed association in the country and say, what a novel idea, you're following your breed standard. So, but like I say, I think that's going to be the one sheep that if we can push back enough, and where these sheep are being raised primarily is in Southwest Texas right now is where our large numbers are. We've got a pretty big flock of them in Manhattan or just north of Manhattan. And, those people are raising them for ranch sheep. They're not raising them for, club lambs or anything like that.
That's the white Dorper or just the Dorper?
Both, the Dorper and the white Dorper. Yeah, when I say that, it's collective, the Dorper and the white Dorper. And I'm really intrigued to know more about this white dorper, the milk